Python, one of the most popular programming languages, can be used in database applications. You can choose the right database for your application as Python Database API supports a wide range of database servers. One of the most popular databases amongst others is certainly MySQL. MySQL Python connector is an interface for connecting to a MySQL database server from Python. It implements the Python Database API and is built on top of the MySQL. So please make sure that you have already installed Python in your machine. Python contains pip, which is a package manager, and it is recommended to use pip in order to install MySQL connector. If all this information managed to hit the dartboard of your curiosity right in the center, stay tuned and follow through the course on Python MySQL for some delightful information coming your way.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoyed this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing. So make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video with any queries or suggestions and I will respond to your comments.
Now we are going to use SQL using Python. How to do that? Here we are going to connect SQL database with Python. So it's one of the most used purpose. So if you know Python, so we'll talk about what is Python, how Python came into the picture, and a short brief about Python. And I will show you how this Python works as well. So here basically we are going to connect SQL with the Python itself, right? So let's get started with that. First, we are going to talk about what is Python. So Python is a popular high-level object-oriented and interpreted language. So whenever we are going to say, okay, Python is a high-level object-oriented interpreted language, what is actually stands for? It stands for Python is a high level. So whenever we try to connect with any computer, that time we need to have we need to go through the low level, right? Because computer understands low level language as we know. But in the case of Python, you can do these things using the high level language like English, right? If you know English, you can start up writing your Python code. Now comes Python is object-oriented programming language. Object-oriented, the OPS concept is a whole concept. Actually, it gives so many features to a programmer. There are lots of features we have. So in that case, Python has that facility as well. And it's interpreted because it's already interpreted, right? From here, if we go into the history of Python, how Python came into the picture, then let me give you the idea that how this language name is Python and why it's Python. I know it's like why this language name is Python, right? Let me give you the actual reason behind that. Python is invented by Rossum in 1989. So inventor of Python is Rossum. Rossum used to love watching comedy movies from late 70s. He needed a short, unique and slightly mysterious name for his language. And in that time, fortunately, he was watching Monty Python's Flying Circus. From that name itself, he thought of, okay, he can keep his language name Python. It's really little mysterious as well. It's short and it's unique. So this is how Python invented, and this is how this language name end up with Python. Right, so this is the history behind Python. Now we are going to talk about what are the reasons you should learn Python. So I will give you a few reasons for that. There is a reason that currently everyone is starting learning Python. They're using Python as their programming language, right? So what are those reasons? So if you are a web developer, maybe you do full stack web development to making your website, that time you can use Python. If you ask me why, because there are plenty of reasons there why you need to use Python. Because there are lots of frameworks are already available in Python. They will help you to make your work easy. Right, you can use web development using Python, like they have Django, Flask, right? These are the frameworks you can directly use to make your website, and there is lots of other options as well how you can actually deploy your website. Then comes the length of the program. So whenever you are talking about you need to write a program, right? Maybe you need to do a summation or just need to write hello, welcome, right? So in that case, for Java or C++, at most you have to write almost 2 to 3 lines of code. But in the case of Python, you just need to write 1 line of code, like write the sprint and then hello world. That's all you need to write. So this is where, when it comes to the length of the program, if you use Python, it will really become short, because as we think about a programmer, always this first thing coming to our mind, they have to deal with like lots of lines of codes. But in the case of Python, it's not really that true, right? Then comes a Python is simple and beginner friendly. Yes, Python is one of the most simple language. It does not have lots of syntax, and I can say it doesn't have a syntax, right? It just maintain the indentation. You have to maintain the indentation, right? That's all you need to require. And it's a very beginner friendly. So if you never had done any programming language, then Python will be the best option for you, because it's easy, it's simple, and there are not lots of things you need to remind. Now comes the mathematical computation. If you go for some of the data science part, or if you really want to do some of the mathematical computation for your work itself, that time Python has a lots of library to help you out with that. So just think of, if you need to just write a code from the scratch for a mathematical computation, how painful it will be, right? So Fourier transform and all those things you can do directly using those frameworks, not the frameworks, the libraries the Python has, right? Now comes the graphical user interface, that is GUI. So graphical user interface is basically used by many gamers, right? If you are a gamer and if you want to make your own game, and if you want to use a very cool graphics, right, graphics user interface, that time you can use Python. I mean, there are lots of reasons. We just gave few reasons to learn Python. There are lots of reasons to learn Python. Now we are going to talk about why Python is so popular. So I will give you the reason why Python is so popular. So whenever we are going to talk about any language, specifically any language, there are lots of things comes into the picture. First, the community for that language. So if you ask me why community matters, because community is one of the place where if you don't know someone who is going to help you on that particular thing, but if the community is very active for that particular language, that time that community and the they will have lots of learners and collaborators. They will come up to solve your doubt. You can think of you were stuck somewhere, right? In that time, if you just go and check out the community, and if you just ask for help, they will come and they will always help you, right? Always they will love to help you to solve your problems. This is the main reason for any particular language. So its community should be very active. So this is when this comes to Python. Python has the largest community for learners and collaborators. Now Python is open source. You don't need to pay anything for Python. Then easy to learn and usable flexibility. We have talked about this before earlier as well. Now comes huge numbers of Python libraries. Yes, Python do have lots of libraries, right, that you can use, and it will solve your, make your life easy. Everything you don't need to do from the scratch. And there are lots of frameworks also we have. Now comes supports big data, machine learning, cloud computing. When we talk about deep learning, right? When we talk about some, data mining techniques, everything you can do using Python. Okay. Now Python is also supports automations. So there are plenty of reasons why Python is so popular. So this is why we are going to try to connect Python with SQL. I hope if you want to make any project using Python, and if you want to connect your database with Python, you can do that, right? Now we are going to talk about the installing Python procedure. So if you want to install Python, you need to go to python.org, the official website you have to go, and you can directly download Python from there. Now we will talk about some of the IDE, that integrated development environment. So if you ask me why we are using that integrated development environment, so basically it makes your life easy to do the code, right? It offers you writing code, debugging codes and testing your codes itself, right? So there are lots of reasons for what we love to go for IDE. There are lots of IDE we have in Python, like we have PyCharm. So if you want to go for PyCharm, you can download it from the official website itself. And if there are one more that is we have, that is Anaconda. So we are going to use Anaconda for this particular project. So this is also one of the IDE that is, this IDE mostly used for data science. So it's known as Data Science Toolkit as well. And then we have Google Colab. So that is provided by Google researchers to for the AI researcher basically who wants to research something using artificial intelligence. That's why Google provide that, and this has lots of features, right? Lots of features this Google Colab has, and you don't need to install anything. The main thing is that. And one more thing, whenever you go for any installing any IDE, you have to sure that Python is already installed in your system. Otherwise, IDE will not be supported. Right, so these are the IDE we know about, Pythons, and there are lots of other IDEs also there. If you want, you can check them out. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to do a demo SQL with Python. Right, so let's go to MySQL Workbench and let's have a look at how we can do and how we can connect SQL with Python. Right, so if you just install Jupyter Notebook, that time you will get an interface like this. And if you want to create your own notebook using Anaconda or this Jupyter Notebook, you need to click to new, from there Python 3. Right, if you click over there, can you see you will get your first notebook over here. The same way I have made my notebook. So what you need to do first, you need to have a connector. If you ask me why, because Python needs a MySQL driver to access the MySQL database. So that time, if you want to install this in Anaconda command line itself, you need to write conda install -c Anaconda MySQL connector Python. And if you want to do this in a pip install, you can do this over here itself, pip install MySQL connector Python. Right, now, as you have already done the connection, right? Your connection is done. Okay, so if you want to check if your connection is actually, the driver is already installed. Now you need to connect the MySQL. Start. If your driver is already installed, now if you want to check that connection is working or not, for that you need to do something. What you need to do? So what you need to do, you need to import MySQL.connector, this library. After that, what you need to do, MyDB, your the variable equals to MySQL.connector.connect. So basically you have to call this function to connect your MySQL, right? So MySQL.connector.connect will help you to connect your SQL database with Python. So now if you ask me this host and user ID and password from where I got it, so if you go to MySQL, right? And if you go to file, right? Not the file, if you go to this home button, right? Can you see? This is the root you have. The user is basically root. So I have written this is the root, right? Host, if you look at over here, your host is localhost, right? So I have written localhost over here. Now comes the password. Whenever you are installing MySQL, I have shown in the MySQL installation as well, you have to give a password. For my case, password is 1234567 right? So in your case, whatever the password you are going to give, you need to write that. Now I want to check, I am printing MyDB. Why? I want to check is the connection established with the SQL with Python. If it's there, then you will get that connector.connection.mysql object and this, right? Okay, let me just do that. Yes, can you see it's already connected to my SQL, right? Now what I want to do, I want to create a table. So mydb.cursor. Now we are going to see how can you connect your database with MySQL. As we have talked about the connector, we already installed over here that pip install MySQL connector Python, right? If we just re-execute this part, you can see this is already the connector of the MySQL will be there. After that, what we are going to do, we need to import MySQL.connector. After we use this import.mysql.connector, then we need to use a variable, the variable called MyDB. I have shown you that already my host name is localhost, user is root, and password is 1234567 I have given. So basically, normally in default, all the cases, the host will be localhost if you don't change it, and the user will be root. But the password is always changeable as the password, whatever the password you are going to give for your particular database or MySQL Workbench. Now, if you can see, database equals to SQ. So let me go to MySQL Workbench. So here you can see I have created a database called SQ, and I said, hey, use SQ, right? So my database name is SQ, and I have put them repeat. So my database name is SQ, and I said my database, hey, use my database, that is SQ. Okay, now what we are going to do, as we have done this database name, let me just execute this. So can you see we got this? So here, as we have done the MySQL connector Python, it's already requirements already satisfied, it's showing. And here, yes, if I just put this, can you see we got this? There is no error over here. Now what we are going to do? Now we are going to use a my cursor. So we will talk about what is my cursor. So before that, if you can see, we have done this MyDB variable. Under this, we have defined everything: our database name, MySQL user, password, everything. Right? Now, what we are going to do? We are going to call a variable called myCursor. Right? But why do we need cursor in MySQL? Okay, so right. So cursor is basically like a, it's just like a object, right? And it's basically help you to go through all the databases you have, or all the command you are providing for execution, for inserting data. The cursor will help you to do that. So basically, as we were talking about the cursor of MySQL is basically a connector which is used to execute the statement to communicate with the MySQL database, right? It basically helps you to communicate with your MySQL database, right? And using the methods of it, what you can execute SQL statements, right? Fetch data from the result sets, call, and procedures. And you can create cursor object using cursor function. As you can see, we have used cursor function or the method of the connection object or classes, right? So this is how this dot cursor function works, right? It helps to establishing the connection with MySQL database. Now, if you look at it, we are going to call a function called dot execute. So why do we need dot execute? So myCursor dot execute basically we use for execute a command. So what command we are using? We are using a command called create table customer, right? So create table customer is basically you have two attributes. Your one attribute is name, which is type of varchar, right? And one attribute you have called address. The varchar again is 255. Okay, so this is how we are using it. So here we have written the same, the command we know to create table customer, and then you have provided in the bracket, in the round bracket, what are the attributes you have. Let me just execute this one. Can you see it's already okay? It's saying it's already exists, if I am not wrong. Yes. So what we can do, already we have made this. So if we want to see what are the table you have, show tables, right? Let me just execute this. Okay, you have a customer table. Now I said, as I want to make a customer table in this data set, now I want to drop the table. Okay, drop table customers. Okay, let me just execute this one. It's dropped, right? Now if you put on this show table, you have no table over here. If we go back to again the Anaconda, so what you are saying that, okay, we are going to create a table called customer. Let me just execute this. Okay, can you see it's already executed, right? Now I will do the same thing I have done using show tables, right? To check whether you have table in your database or not. What to do? Again, you need to use myCursor, a variable, equals to mydb.cursor. So why we are using mydb? Because the connection you have made with the MySQL with Python, that is the variable under the variable mydb. So mydb and dot cursor, it's help you to again establish the connection. Now, what I want to execute, if you need to execute any particular command or query, in that time you need to use dot execute function. So I have written myCursor dot execute, then show tables. So basically it will help you to show the table. Now I have used a for loop. If you ask me why, because for x in myCursor, print x. Maybe you will have more than one table, right? That time you need to use a for loop to see what are the tables you have. If I'm gonna execute this, can you see you got only customers? right? And let me just try one more thing. Maybe I am going to write my cursor. Okay, right? So, okay, in my cursor, what it's gonna return, it's returning my SQL cursor show tables, right? From here, if you can look at over here that my cursor, that time whenever you are using a for loop, that time it will fetch the table name, right? It will fetch the table name you have in your database. I have one table called customers. Now, if I'm going to execute the next command, which is an alter command, what I'm going to change in my table? I said alter table. The query we have alter table, then the table name, that is customers, add column. I want to add a new column, that is ID, right? The column type will be integer auto increment. So it will take a auto incremented value. If whenever you are going to put a new record, it will take 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, right? You don't need to put it manually. So auto increment, then primary key. So we know what is primary key. So primary key is basically a unique key, or you can say a key which is basically help you to reduce the data redundancy, right? And it also helps to make a relation with the other tables. So it's basically the part of a key in relational database management system, right? Yes. So in this case, it will be your new column. Okay. Now, what we are going to do, we are going to insert value to our customer table. How to do that? The same way, we have a variable called SQL is equals to insert into where you need to insert in the table called customers. There, you will be having a attribute name and address, and the value percentage is for the value, right? Now, if you see the value we gave, that John and Highway 21, that is the address and the name. So I said my SQL, my cursor dot execute SQL and value, the query and the value we are providing. Then my db dot commit. Dot commit is basically help you to execute or insert the data in the your database, right? And when we talk about that print MySQL dot row count record inserted, right? It will show you how many rows are actually commit. Okay, how many records you have put in your database, and then it will come record inserted, right? Let me just execute this part. Okay, can you see one record inserted is showing as we have given one value, right? Now, if you want to insert a multiple value, what you need to do? First, you need to write the command, that is SQL insert into customers. Then you have to provide the attribute name, that is name and address. And then you have to give the value, that percentage is. Then I am giving us lots of sets of value. Can you see? We have used a square bracket over here, right? And we have given lots of value like Peter, Amy, Hannah, Michael, Sandy, Richard, Susan, right? We have these names and the data to insert that to our database. Now we will do the same thing. My cursor dot execute many. So whenever we are going to use execute many, whenever we have a lot of data to execute in one time. So in that case, we are going to use one function called execute many. Okay. And then what we are going to do, SQL, we are sending SQL and val both. Then my db dot commit. So we are going to say, okay, you just already executed using my cursor, and then we are going to use my db dot commit. And if you use the same one, that my cursor dot row count, it will give you a row count and was inserted, right? That will be your text. Can you see 13 was inserted? Yes, this is how you can insert data to your database from Python. Now let's go to MySQL and let's have a look at, are they really there? Are they already? So now we are going back to MySQL database and we will have a look at, are they really inserted to our database or it's not, right? So it's a both side validation from MySQL and Python as well, right? So let's go to MySQL and let's have a look at that actually this 13 records are inserted or not. And the commit function, basically you can say it allows you to perform multiple queries at once, okay, and automatically roll back the changes if one of them fails, right? So this is the reason why we use dot commit function. So let's go to MySQL. As you have seen that we are going to use dot like SQ database, then show tables, right? Can you see we actually have the customer table over here. So we have created customer table through Python. Now what we are going to do, we are going to write select star from where, from customers, right? So as we know why we use that, so we use it to fetch the data from a database. That select command is basically used to select the data, all the data from the particular table. So we use select star. Star, basically you want all the records to be returned from customer table, right? Let me execute this. Can you see the total 13? So we will count, like if you want to count, right? Total 14 will be there if I am not wrong. So we are going to use a predefined function, that count function, to check how many records we have in our database. Right, let me just execute this. Can you see 14 is there? So you actually can confirm, okay, whatever I have inserted through Python, it's already inserted to my database. So our database and Python is connected. Now we can do any program, we can do any sort of query, we can use this. I mean, basically you can directly use your database using Python. So maybe you have a website and from there you want to put some databases and you want to check. I mean, you are taking the data from website front page and you want to take them and you want to store them to the database directly using Python. You can do that, right? Now again, let's have a look at what else we can do. The same thing, that select star from customers that we have done in the MySQL. Can we do that? So yes, we can do that. You need to write my cursor dot execute and then your query, that is select star from customers. Then my result is equals to my cursors dot fetch all. It will fetch all the data you are going to get, right? And from there you are going to write for x in my result, as we need to use a for loop to get all the record one by one. Then you say print x. Can you see it's executed all the data you have got? So maybe if you want to write over here, select star from customers, what you will get? The same thing you will get, right? And if we write count, right, the same thing we have done over there. What we will get on this? Can you see? You got 14. Yes, so this is how this whole scenario and whole, this concepts work, this how you actually can do all the query. If you know how to write MySQL query and if you know how to connect MySQL with Python, you can start making your own website and you can start, connecting your database with Python. Now comes my cursor.mydb to check where this where conditions works in the SQL. Like we use where clause to give some condition, like according to that condition we are going to fetch the data. So we can check that is where clause is working over here or not. So we have written again my cursor equals to mydb.cursor, the same procedure. For the query, we have written select star from customers where address equals to Park Lane 38, right? So why want all the data if the address equals to Park Lane 38? Then all that my cursor dot execute and then your command. And then my result is equals to my cursor dot fetch all. So if you just look at it, can you see you got John, that is highway 21. Okay, sorry. I am so sorry. You got the answer, that being Park Lane 3811. Right? This is your answer after putting the where clause in your query. Now, if you put the pattern matching, right? You want to the way word should be there in the address, then only it will return all the data. So that time we need to use like function, right? Or the like keyword basically. So like keyword will help you to do the pattern matching. If you say how and why we are writing this percentage, so basically this percentage sign are basically the way after the way, right? After the way word or before the way word, there can be anything. But this particular way, this WAY should be there in the address. So we have written select star from customers where address like way, right? Like percentage way. So you can see high. The high is before there in way and after 21, right? There is one way, side way, right? So that is the thing. So the way particular keyword is there in the address, and we use like function for that, right? Then we used order by. So why do we need order by? Order by is basically nothing but is giving you your data in an ascending or a descending order. So you said, hey, I want all the customers name which is in an ascending order. So in default, it makes your data in an ascending order. So ascending order through which column you want. So in this case, I want the name. The name column should be in the ascending order. Now, if you say I want my name to be in the descending order, you are going to use order by clause itself. But what you need to do, you need to use writing DESC. So DESC, if you look over here, this DESC defined you want your data in a descending order. Let me execute that. Can you see? You got William, Central, Vicola, Vicky, Susan, Sandy. Last me you got Amy, right? So yeah, this is all the queries we have learned about SQL, and I have shown you a few examples that how can you actually connect SQL with Python, right? So yes, will help you to make a end-to-end project using SQL and Python, where you can actually connect your database with a language, programming language, in a very simple way. We just are using a connector, right? So yes, again, Python is really simple. Python is really make your life easy with the other features it's gonna given. So if you really need to do these things in Java, you need to add so many things. The connector to obviously there will be lots of other factors will be there to add. But in the case of Python, it's really easy to start with connecting databases with Python or some other thing also. If you want to connect with Python, that is also very easy to do that.
Hey guys, welcome to the course of Python MySQL. My name is Gaurav, and once again I welcome you to all to great learning. Now, moving to the agenda, first we will see how to create a connection between Python and MySQL Workbench. So we will be installing pip in Python, and then we will see how we can establish a connection with database. After that, we will see SQL statements. So here we will be taking a problem statement of cricket players, in which we will be performing several SQL statements such as select, update, delete, and many more. And obviously we will be seeing the implementation part also. So now let's see how to create a connection. So in order to create a connection, first you have to install MySQL connector. Now how to install MySQL connector? So you can install it using pip. So I will just write exclamation mark pip install MySQL hyphen connector hyphen Python. So I can import this module and MySQL connector will be installed. Now after that, I want to establish a database connection. So how to do it? So first we have already seen how to install MySQL connector. So I will just simple write here exclamation mark pip install MySQL hyphen connector hyphen Python. And after that I will import this. So I will just write here import mysql.connector. So now for establishing a database connection, what I will do here, I will just write here a variable database in which I will assign here mysql.connector.connect. Here you can see that I am having host, user, password. So here host will be your local host. So now coming to the user, here you can see that I have written here XYZ. So basically it's the username. So whatever the username is there, you have to write it. Now the same goes for the password. Whatever the password you have given for MySQL Workbench, you have to write it here. And then after that we will print. So let me open the MySQL Workbench now. So I will just go here and I will just write here. So here you can see that my host is here written as localhost. My username is here root, and the password I have already given here the root, right? So let me open my Jupyter notebook. So what I will do here, Okay, so this is my Jupyter notebook. So I'll just go on here new and I will click on Python 3. And let me change the name here. So I'll just write here Python underscore my SQL. So before going further, you can use any other IDE also, but I will be using here Jupyter Notebook, right? So let me write here first exclamation mark pip install, and I will write here MySQL hyphen connector hyphen Python. So let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that MySQL.connector has been installed, right? Now after this, what I will do, I have to establish a connection with database. So I will just write here. Let me just copy here. Okay, I will just write here import MySQL dot connector. Now after this, I will just create a variable name as my database. And I will simply write here MySQL dot connector, and I will write here connect function now. So I'll just write here dot connect. Yeah. So inside this, what I will do here, first I will write here host. So you can see that my host was localhost, right? So I'll just write here localhost, and I will write here another variable user, and inside user I will just write my username as root and the password. So the password also I have given as root, so I'll just write here root, and let me print it out. So I'll just write here print my underscore database. So let me execute this. So on execution, you can see that Python is connected with my SQL, right? So we have established a database connection here. Now, after establishing a connection with database, now let's see SQL statements. So basically, first, if you want to create a database, then you have to write create database and then database name. For an example, let's suppose if I want to create a database of employee, so I'll just write here create database and then employee. And if you want to check whether your database exists or not, then you can just simply write show databases. So it will show you whatever the databases are present, right? Moving ahead, we will see how to create a table. So if you want to create a table, first you have to write create table and the name of the table. So let's take an example. If I want to create a table for an employee, so I'll just write here create table and employee. And then in column 1, I can give the employee ID. In column 2, I can give employee name. And then in column 3, I can give employee salary. Now coming to the column 1 data type. So what is data type here? So let's suppose if I'm writing here employee ID. So ID will be in integer, right? So this is the data type basically. I'm supposing that you are having an idea about SQL, right? So now coming to the name, if you will see name, then the data type I will be using here varchar and so on. So now if you want to see whether a table exists or not, then again you have to write show tables. So if your table will be there, then it will show the table, right? So let's see some more SQL statements. So the first one is insert. So if you want to insert any value, then you can use this insert statement. So you have to write here insert into and then the name of the table and then column 1 and column 2, basically a field you can write here. And then you can see that we have written values and we have written percentage s, percentage s. So basically these are placeholders. So here we are having two columns. So we are having two placeholders for that. Let's suppose if you are having four columns, then I have to write here four placeholders. Next we are having select. So when you are writing select star from table name, so whatever the records are there, it will be retrieved at once, right? Moving ahead, we are having where clause. So you can use where clause to give the condition. So here I have written here select star from table name where we are giving the condition. Next we are having order by. So when you are using order by here, and let's suppose I am using order by and after that I am written name. So whatever the records will be there, it will be displayed in the alphabetical order, right? From A to Z. So the next statement we are having update. So if you want to update any record, then you have to write update table name and then you have to set column 1 is equal to value 1 and so on. And then you will give condition. After that, we will say limit. So let's suppose if you are having a 100 records and if you want to display only 5 records. So what you can do, you can set the limit and after that you will write 5. So I will write here select star from table name and then limit, and instead of number I will write 5. So it will display only 5 records. After that we are having delete. So if you want to delete any record, then you can use delete statement. So I'll just write here delete from table name and I will give the condition. Next we are having drop table. So if you want to drop a table, so basically when you are using drop statement, so that means your table will be deleted along with the records. So this is the basic idea about the SQL statements. So let's take a problem statement on this. So in this problem statement, let's take a case. If I want to create a database of cricket player, so I can create a database, right? And then after that, let's create a table cricket player. And coming to the fields are nothing but columns, right? So in this problem statement, I will be taking a field as name, age, jersey number, and runs. And what I will do here, whatever the SQL statements I've given you the idea, we will implement it. So now let's see the implementation. So now after this, we have already established the database connection, and then we have to create our first database. So let's see how we can create our database. So for creating database, let me copy this thing and I will just copy here. And after this, what I will do, I'll just write here my database dot cursor. So now I am writing here cursor function because cursor function is used to execute SQL statement to communicate with my SQL workbench. So after this, what I will do here, I will just write here cursor dot execute, and inside this execute I will just write my create database and I will give the database name as sports. Okay, and let me execute this. So you can see that it has been executed. Now I've already created my database, but I want to see it whether my database exists or not. So for that, what I will do, let me just copy this. I've told you the statement, right? So databases. So I'll just write here so databases, and let me run it. You can see that it has been executed. So I want to see my database. So for that, I will be using a loop here. So I'll just write here for I in cursor, and I will just write here print I. Let me run this. And you can see that on execution, I am getting all the databases which are present here. So you can see that here right now I've just created the database as sports, and if I am writing here so databases, so I'm getting sports here along with the different databases because I have given the statement here so databases. So whatever the database I've created, it will display here. Now after this, I just want to create a table. Then how to create a table? So for creating a table, what I will do, I will just write here create table, and what will be the table name? Table name will be player. You can take any name. I am just giving the name here as player. So after this, what I will do, create table, table name. I will just write here name, and I will give here name as varchar, and let me give here the size is 20. And after that, I will just write jersey number, and it will be int. And then I will write here, let's suppose age, it will be also in int. And I will write here score. So score will be also in int. Okay, so now I will execute it, but before execute I have to select database. So I will just write here database, and what's the database name? So I've already created a new database here whose name is, you can see that is sports, right? So I'll just write here sports. So let me execute this and I will just run it now. So now you can see that I've already created my table, but I want to see my table. So for that, what I will do here, I will just write here cursor dot execute, and inside I will just write here show tables, and let me execute this. You can see that it has been executed, but I want to see my table. So once again I will be using a loop. I will just write here for I in cursor, and then I will just write here print I, and let me run this. And now you can see that in output I am getting my table name as player. Now if I want to check it in the SQL workbench, then how to check? Let me open this SQL workbench and I will just keep my password here as root. So let me click on this refresh button, and now I will just go on file, I will go on new query tab, and here if I'm writing here, let me click on this sports. So I will just write here select star from, what's my table name? My table name is here player, right? So if you see here the table name is here player, right? So let me execute this. And on execution, you can see that we are having the field as name, jersey number, age, and score. Now you might have a question, but we don't have any records, right? Because we didn't use the insert statement yet. So this is our basic table that we have created. So now after creating table, now let's insert values. So what I will do now, once again, I'll just copy it, this thing. And now I will just create a variable. So let me create the variable here SQL, and I will write here insert into table name is player. So what are the fields for table player? So fields were name, jersey number, age, and score. So I'll just write here name, jersey number, age, and score. And after that, I will just write here values. So we are having four fields here. So I will just write here four placeholders. So I will write here percentage %s. Okay. And now after this, let me insert the value. So I'll just create another variable. So let me write here player 1, and here I will just write here name, let's suppose Sachin, and after Sachin I will just write the jersey number as 10, and let's suppose age is 32, and score let's suppose 100. Now what I will do here, I'll just write here once again cursor dot execute, and inside this execute function I will write my SQL comma player 1. Now after this, what I will do here, I'll just write here my database dot commit. So now you might have a question that why I'm writing here commit function, because if you're not writing a commit function, then this value will not be updated in your database. So whatever the changes you are doing, if you want to reflect in your database, then you have to use commit function, or else it will not reflect in your database. So I've written here my database dot commit. Let me execute this. So on run, you can see that name Sachin is not defined. Why? Because we have to put a string in quotes. So it has been executed. Yeah. So after this, now I will open my MySQL workbench. Now if I'm executing it, select star from player. So you can see that I am getting Sachin and the jersey number is 10, age is 32 and 100, right? Now here you can see that I've inserted only one value. Now if I want to insert multiple values, then what will I do? So for multiple values, I will just do one thing here. I will just create a list basically here. So I will just change the name here. So let's suppose instead of Sachin, I will write here Lara, and the jersey number, let's suppose 11, and age is 33, run says 101, and then let me change the name here Ponting, jersey number I will give here 12, age let's suppose I will give here 35, and then the score is let's suppose 123. So we'll go fast here, and I will just write here Yuvraj, and then age let me give here 23, score I will write here 200. I'm giving just random values here, and I will write here Dhoni, jersey number let's suppose 7, and then age is also 37 and 150, and let me change the name here also. So you can see that we are inserting several records here, and then I will write here Kohli, and let me give the number here 1, age, let's suppose 26, and runs 190. Okay, so let me remove this. I think this much record is sufficient as of now. Now here you can see that I am inserting multiple records here, but I have written here execute. So if you're writing execute, then it will show you the error. So we have to write here execute many. So I'll just run it, and on execution you can see that it has been executed. Now if I want to see it in my database, then once again I will just select it, and you can see that I am getting the list: Sachin, Lara, Ponting, Yuvraj, Dhoni, Kohli, right? Now you might have a question, then okay, in database I can see it. Now if you want to see in Python, then how we can see? So what I will do here, I will just, yeah, let me just copy this, and now I will just write here cursor dot execute, and let me write here SQL statement, that is select. I'll just write here select star from was a table name player. So we know that whenever we are writing this statement, so it will retrieve all the rows at once. So let me put it into the quotes, and now I'll just write here cursor dot fetch all. So on execution, you can see that I'm getting all the values here. Let's suppose if you want to fetch only one record, so instead of fetch all, I'll just write here fetch one. Simple. So you can see that we are getting only one record of Sachin, right? So let's suppose if you want to display the age of the cricketer, so what you can do, you have to just write instead of asterisk, just write here age, and you can see that you are getting age as 32. So fetch one means that it will display the first record, right? So if you see here Sachin age is 32, so it will display. So instead of one age, if I want to see all the ages of different cricket players, so I'll just write here fetch all, and on running you can see that I'll get the ages of different cricketer. So instead of age here, you can also write here score. So I'll just write here score, and you can see that you are getting the score of different players. So this is the basic idea how to insert values into the table. So now after this, let's use where clause. So what I will do here, I will just create a variable. Let's suppose the variable name is SQL, and I will just write here select star from table name is player. So I'll give the condition. So for giving condition, I will be using a where clause. So I'll just write here where, and let me write here where name is equal to Lara. So after this, I will write here cursor dot execute, and inside this execute function, I will write this SQL. So let me execute this. So it has been executed, but I want to see the record in output. So for that, I will be using a loop. So once again, I will write here for I in cursor. So let's understand this loop. When I'm writing here cursor dot execute SQL, and you can see that SQL is a variable in which I've written the select statement, right? And I've given the condition using where clause. So it has been executed, right? So when I'm writing for I in cursor, so whatever the value cursor is having, I will take it and print it, because I will be using here print I. So on execution, you can see that I am getting the record whose name is Lara, whose jersey number is 11, age is 33, and then the run score is 101. Okay, so instead of name, you can select here, let's suppose score. So if you see the table here, in this table, Yuvraj has scored 200 run, right? So I'll just write here score is equal to 200. And now if I'm executing it, you can see that I'm getting the record. So after seeing where clause, now let's see order by keyword. So for order by keyword, what I will do here. So as we know that when I'm writing order by, let's suppose name, so it will give me in ascending order, right? So whatever the names I will be getting, I will be getting in alphabetical order. So if I'm writing here select star from player, so I'll just remove this where, and I will just write here order by, if I'm writing, let's suppose name. So what will happen here if I'm executing it? You can see that the name that I'm getting is in the alphabetical order. Similarly, I can do it for the age also. So you can see that our age column was here, right? This is the age column 23, 26, 32, 33, 35 and 37. Also, you can get it in the descending order also. So if I'm executing this and if I'm writing here order by name descending, so you can see that now I will be getting the name from Z to A. So the first Yuvraj will come, then Sachin, Ponting, Lara, Kohli and Dhoni, right? Similarly, I can do for age also. So instead of name, I will just write here age. So you can see that I'm getting the record which is having the highest age first. So you can see that these SQL statements are very simple, right? So let's move ahead. Now, after seeing order by keyword, now let's see how to update records in table. So for that, what I will do first, again, this will never change, right? This is our basic syntax in which we are connecting Python with MySQL workbench. So I'll just write here once again SQL variable and let me write here update statement. So I will just write here update. And what's the table name? Table name is player. So I will just write here player. And after that, I will write update player. And then I will write here set. And let me write here age is equal to, let me write age is equal to 46. And I will give here the condition where name is equal to, let's suppose I'm writing here Lara. So if you see here, what will happen here? You can see that we are basically setting the age as 46 where the player name is Lara. So earlier if you see here, Lara age was 33, right? But now it will be 46. So but for that I have to write here cursor dot execute and then I have to write inside this SQL. And one more thing is important. I told you that if you are doing any changes, then you have to use commit function or else it will not be updating in the database. So I will show you here. I'm not using commit function. So I'm just running it and you can see that it has been executed. Now, if I'm going to MySQL workbench, let me refresh it first. And if I am executing it, you can see that here Lara age doesn't change. So here I have to write first commit. So I'll just write here my database dot commit. Let me correct the name here, so it will be underscore. Now if I'm executing here, you can see that it has been executed. And let me go to my database and I will just click on this refresh. And if I'm writing here select star from player, and if now I'm executing, you can see that Lara age has been changed from 33 to 46. Got it? Yep. So now after this, let's change some more records. Now what can I do? I'll just write here, let's suppose I'll just write here set name. Now instead of age, I will just here set the name. So I'll just write here the name as Sehwag and where name is equal to. So instead of name, I will just write here age where age is equal to. So let me go to MySQL workbench and where age is equal to 37, I will write here, right? So let me write here age is equal to 37 and if I'm executing it, you can see that it has been executed. Now let me go to MySQL workbench and once again I will refresh it and let me execute this. So here you can see that the player whose age was 37 got the name as Sehwag, right? So it has been updated. Okay. So now after seeing how you can update any record, we will now set a limit. Let's suppose if you want only 5 record, so we can use here the limit keyword and then we can implement it. So let me just copy this. Now what I will do here, I'll just write here basic query that is select star from player. Okay, so let's suppose if I want to print out the first 5 records, that is Sachin, Lara, Ponting, Yuvraj and Sehwag, so I can use here limit keyword. So I'll just go here and I will just write here limit, and after that I'll just write here, let's suppose 5. So let me execute this, but before executing I have to remove this commit because I'm not doing any changes as of now in my database. I just want to display the first 5 records, right? So I'll just write here for I in cursor, and I will just write here print I, and on execution you can see that I'm getting first 5 records. Now instead of first 5 records, let's suppose if I'm going to my SQL workbench, and let's suppose if I want to display my records from Lara, right? I don't want Sachin, I just want to display the first 5 records from Lara. So what I can do here, I can use here offset. So let me just copy it, and I will just write here select star from player limit 5, and then I will use here offset, and I will write here 1. So now if you are executing, you can see that it will print from Lara, Ponting, Yuvraj, Sehwag, Kohli, and then Sachin will be skipped. So this was my record, right? You can cross check it. So it is printing from Lara itself. So now let's see delete statement. So for delete statement, what I will do here, I have to write a simple query once again. I'll just write here delete from player, and I'll give the condition simple. So let me write here where. So let me check my database first. So let's suppose if I want to delete the Yuvraj record, so I'll just write here. So let's delete it by age. So I'll just write where age is equal to 23. So delete from player where age is equal to 23. And since this is a delete statement, so there will be a change in database. So I have to use your commit function, right? So I'll just write here simple my database dot commit. And now if I'm executing it, and let me go to my database, let me refresh it, and I will just click on this query, and you can see that Yuvraj has been deleted from here. Now instead of age, let's delete it by score. So I'll just write here now delete from player where score is equal to 100. So let me run this, and I will refresh it once again, and if I'm executing it, you can see that Sachin has been also deleted. So these are the very simple SQL statements that you can use and can do the changes in your database. So let me take one more example, and this time I will take here through name where name is equal to, let's suppose I will take here name as Ponting. I've executed. Now once again I will go to my database and refresh it. Let me execute this, and you can see that we are only having 3 records. So after seeing delete statement, now let's see what is drop. So for drop, I have to write here simple statement drop table and the table name. So I'll just write here drop table, and the table name is here player. So again, if I'm dropping the table, so that means all the records from the table will be deleted along with the table schema. So I'll just write here run. So if I'm going to MySQL here, and if I'm refreshing it, and if I'm executing it, you can see that there is nothing here, right? Because there is no table present. So you can see that we can use delete statement to delete a particular record. You can use drop table from where all the records will be deleted along with the table will be also deleted. So we have seen the implementation of different SQL statement in Python MySQL, right? So this is the basic idea about Python MySQL. Let's take a quick recap for this course. We have started this course by understanding how to create a connection. So first we have to install MySQL connector using pip. Then we have established a connection with the database, and after that we have seen in the problem statement by implementing different SQL statement. So this is the overall idea about this course. Thank you.
If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, I want to request you to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so that you don't miss out on any new updates or video releases from Great Learning. If you enjoyed this video, show us some love and like this video. Knowledge increases by sharing, so make sure you share this video with your friends and colleagues. Make sure to comment on the video with any queries or suggestions, and I will respond to your comments.